Trapped by the belief that I'm not good enough, bound by the limitations and the lies that consumed my world, this was me. It wasn't until I took the biggest leap in my life to know and trust the power within. And it was at that moment I made a choice. My past will not define me anymore. Hello, I am Teri, and I know I am not alone in this. Over the years, I have found that the number one mistake that we make is that we get in the way of our own success story. Yes, I said it. On this show, together we'll tackle limiting beliefs, self-sabotage, getting stuck, fear, doubt, overwhelm, and the imposter syndrome. Join us on this journey designed to transport you beyond your limitations to a world where anything is possible. This is Talking with Teri. Hi, and welcome back to Talking with Teri, where we have powerful conversations to transform your life and your business. And I'm delighted to have Nadia Ahrens with us today. She is a psychotherapist, coach, and spiritual mentor. And what I love about this is we're talking offline is like we have very similar backgrounds and paths. So I can't wait to hear about another healer, another light worker on our planet. But what I love about her, she shares her experiences of overcoming trauma. So that she can be a beacon to others. And what I love what she says in her bio is says that you can transform anything and everything. And girl, you're speaking my language. Welcome, Nadia.
Thank you for having me, Teri. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. So for folks that don't know you yet, I know we're just going to love you because you just had this presence about you, and like attracts like, right? And so share with people kind of your journey and how you got to be on this path.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, I've always been on a spiritual journey. I grew up in a spiritual house. Like my family used to make, instead of playing board games after holidays, like my aunt would literally make a Ouija board out of a paper bag. When I was in high school, I was like, wait, you could actually get one of these at the toy store. So I've always been interested in spirituality and psychology. And so when I went into the field, I was like, how do I incorporate both of these? Because back in the day, as you might remember, there was no combining spirituality with psychology. Yeah. And so I went into private practice. I learned how to do hypnotherapy, which is an amazing tool to get in touch with your soul and your spirit. And, and I was just kind of, chugging along, got married, had kids, all the things. And then in 2016, my 8-year-old son unexpectedly died. And I have 2 other children, twins who are 2 years younger than he is or was. And my entire life just shattered and fell apart. And, obviously every time I talk about it, my voice is going to sound like this, yeah. Right? Because it is a lifelong journey. It's something you never get over. It's something that you learn to walk alongside of. That being said, when it happened, I was shattered, and I had this moment on, because I always talk about like you have the on the floor moment, yeah. and every human is going to have an on the floor moment at any given point in their life, and so mine was on the floor of my son's bedroom, and I didn't want to live. I didn't want to go on. It was too painful. And, I had this moment of, okay, well, what if I just live this passively suicidal life, like a victimized life, waiting to die? Because I was like, every day that I'm here, I'm one day closer to him, and I was like, okay, I can't, the choice to kill myself was not an option, because I couldn't traumatize my husband, my family any more than we had already been, but I was like, I don't want to live. And so I was like, okay, I'll just live a passively suicidal life waiting to die. Right. And then in that next moment, my 98-year-old grandmother popped into my mind, and she lived until almost 102. And I just was like, shit, I have her genes. And in that moment, I was like, you could live a victimized life or transform the shit out of the worst experience you will ever experience in your life. And in that moment, I was like, okay, I have to get up off the floor and do the things that I know will help myself, and so it was, getting up off the floor. It was feeling every feeling, walking through that fire, walking through the darkest moments of my life and feeling everything and releasing it. It was meditation. It was journaling and journaling to him, and it was eventually I was able to incorporate movement and exercise back into my life, but it was baby steps for a long time. And, 5 years out, those are like my pillars of what I do every day, or at least 5 days a week, to 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 transform, and so it's like I could sit here and put on my therapist cap and be like, yes, you could get through anything, but walking through that fire and knowing that for me this was the worst experience, and I think for every parent there is nothing worse,
Right.
that it's it's what I do every day, and at first it was to get up off the floor and function, and now it's transformative. And that's what I teach my female women clients. You could transform from anything. You have that choice. You always have that choice.
And it's not to discredit the trauma, the feelings, the emotions. I mean, you're right. I mean, we have to, at some point make a choice, right? And as a parent, my heart goes out to you and your family, because, there are no words, right? I mean, there's simply no words in the pain and suffering that must have been like for you, and just devastating, right? And so, but what I hear you say is that at some point, that awareness that says, okay, I have a choice, and I can either continue these next, let's say you're, in your early 40s here.
Oh,
right?
thanks. I'll be 50. I'll be 50 in November. So thank you.
You have over, 50, 60 years, right? Of your life to live, and not to, again, dismiss, your son's legacy and what he brought to this world. But taking what he brought to this world and even, making that legacy live on. Right.
Right. And his, his energy and just who he was, like, I always think, like, in those days where I'm like, I just can't do it, and it's like I hear him going like, you got this, mom, like, and also I'm gonna bop you on the head if you're gonna choose to live this way. Like, this is not what we signed up for, and so when I do have those moments, that's what I go back to, and I'm like, okay, he would not like it if I just didn't live the best life that I could live.
And your other children too, your children, right. Your husband. Yeah.
Right. All of us, and and it's not to say that we don't have PTSD, because we all do. There's no way that you don't get around that without it. But I had read a book that I'm blanking out on the name right now, but it was like, it was about post-traumatic resiliency, and so again, yeah, we're all traumatized, and I have to look at it as, okay, we are also teaching our other children and everybody else how to be resilient.
Yeah.
And that we can do hard things.
Yeah. Wow. And I think that and a lot of the women that listen to this podcast are entrepreneurs. And I think we can take that experience, and not the same experience, obviously, but the emotion behind it. I mean, we've all experienced as entrepreneurs that moment where we're on the floor, that moment where we're like brought to our knees and saying, oh my goodness, do I want to continue? Do I want to continue on? Do I want to, when the pain gets too much, or when the, and we're like in the depths of emotions and the depths of our, being, and being like, okay, like I am being tested in this very moment. And what is going to be the choice I make to get out of this, to take the next step. And sometimes it's just the next step, right? It's just the next breath, right?
Right.
To be
Right.
like, okay, it's just the next
Well,
element.
and right, and I just got soul chills
Oh,
because
so chills.
yeah, because that's exactly what it is. Because people be like one step at a time, one day at a time, and back 5 years ago, it was really one breath at a time, And so when we all have these moments as entrepreneurs where you're just like,
Yeah.
oh my God, do I want to keep doing this? And then I always go, well, what's my other option? And I'm like, go back taking insurance and working at a clinic. Like that's not an option, And so it is also about, like, so after Jack was his name, after he died, and I eventually went back to my practice, which I literally just shut down. I started to go, okay, I'm kind of done doing this more traditional work, even though I had incorporated the spiritual
Yeah.
and the hypnotherapy and all this stuff. And that's when it was probably 2018 when I shifted into soul coaching and spiritual mentorship. And, I have 20 years of being a therapist. So we're always going to work on that level, and you're going to get, you know, like super extra with
I like
all
it.
the
So
other stuff, right?
yes,
And
I love
so
it.
one of the things as entrepreneurs just, is really all the mindset stuff too that we have to um, work through, because it's not easy being an entrepreneur. You have to believe in yourself. You have to move through those fears and go, okay, how do I do this? And so when I work with entrepreneurial women, I also we do hypnotherapy, so which is all about working in that subconscious, which is where everything is. We're in
Yeah,
it 90% of the day.
yeah, it's where all the programs that are leading us into the space that we're in today,
Right.
that is the scripts, that's the programming that is creating what we have in our environment now,
Right. Right.
you know.
Well, and then there's this program that's just running on autopilot, right? That we're not even aware of. And then, all the self-limiting beliefs and the mind trash and all the things, and it's like you could do all of the mindset work on the planet consciously. But if you want
Exactly.
that deep healing, deep, long lasting results, like hypnotherapy and or any other type of work that's working in the subconscious is really where it's at. Cause you're just
Yeah.
like, okay, well, I have this mindset issue. And then you go back and you're like, well, why am I like in junior high school, like in the cafeteria right now? Like, and then once you kind of work through whatever that negative or traumatic experience was, then you get, what I ask my clients is like, okay, so what belief did you make about yourself? And then how did you decide to behave based on that belief?
Yeah.
So that's where those ahas come from. And then and then I take them through like this awesome healing experience. And then from there, it's like, okay, well, because that subconscious is like a computer, let's reprogram it.
Yes.
What new healthy belief do you want to replace that old one with? And what new behaviors do you want to replace the old ones with? And it's like, I mean, it's seriously like magic.
I know. I love it. So let me ask you this, like, what
Yeah.
is something that you are constantly working on yourself with in your day to day?
Oh my gosh, that is like a loaded question. Like personally and
Yeah, like
professionally.
what is something that you're continue to work on to make sure that you're at your best level?
So, of course, like your mess is your message, right? Even before, my son's passing, that, a lot of the work that I do is on myself and professionally is working through codependency and people pleasing. And that shows up in, like, I mean, sometimes it shows up in big ways and sometimes it shows up in smaller ways, but it's like, it is one of those um existential issues that I will continue to work on my entire life, and so because it does show up. Like, how am I being codependent with my clients? Like, or how am I people pleasing with my pricing, and forget about just like my personal life, right? Like, like, oh, I don't want anybody to be mad at me, or like, so part of my journey, especially in the past 5 years, was learning how to get out of my own way and learn how to use my voice and shine and be okay with, okay, not everybody's going to like me.
Yeah.
Which is really hard.
I think that is such a powerful message, because cool, when you get to that place and space where you can, because so often we go along our journey and we stay stuck because of the fear of what people will think. Right. And then we keep pushing against it for those that take that journey, pushing against it. And then we get to the place where, like, okay. And then we expose ourselves fully, which is super vulnerable. And then it's like the first time we have like a negative like comment or a negative thing, it's like whack. It's like,
right.
Whoa, like, okay, well, okay, now I want to go back in. I want to go back in, because I think I think that is, for a lot of people, why it's so hard to really be seen in the world, because what if, and the what if monster comes out and be like, oh gosh, we have all these what ifs, and so let me just play small, right? Yeah. Say more about that, because I think that this concept of really, being okay in the space that we're not going to please everybody.
Right.
The powerful message.
Yeah, it's a super powerful message. And I remember reading something that Brene Brown had written, who of course is amazing, right? And she was talking about being in the, I don't know, Coliseum or whatever.
In the arena?
In the arena. I'm like, I know it's not the Coliseum, but it's close. And so it's like, and you're going to get that feedback, right? You're going to get those hecklers. You're going to get those trolls on social media. And she had said something to the effect of like, when you were down here in the arena with me is when we could have the conversation.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's one of those things that, because and I know one of your questions was like the moving through fear aspect of it, that it's like going through what I went through, because yeah, as a human, you have a lot of fears, right? But it's like my number one fear happened, right? And so in this strangely crazy wisdom kind of way, the fear leaves. And I go, okay, I might have some nerves and I might have some fears about being on a podcast or speaking in front of a bunch of people. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, is that going to be as scary and hard as what happened to you? So it kind of puts things in perspective, and yeah. And the honest truth is like, there's 8 billion people on this planet.
Yes.
Not everybody is going to like me. Not everybody is going to like you. And it's about going, okay, this isn't about me. Yes. This is about how badly that other person is feeling about themselves. And whatever I was saying triggered the hell out of them.
Yeah.
And so it's about learning how to kind of parcel it out. I'm an empath, so I feel everything, and so it is also about going, limit the social media. What do I need to do every day to cleanse my energy field? Yes. The alone time, it's setting boundaries, like being okay with not texting a client back if it's after the hours of their allotted, essentially, to text me, yes. and not over explaining. Like, I don't know about you, but that's one of the things, being like, I can't do that because blah, 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 right? And I'm like, oh, wait a second. And then it's like, delete.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't do that.
Yeah. Sorry, I can't do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's, it's boundaries. It's taking the time to really, I used to call it self-care, but now I call it soul care, because it's like, these are the things as entrepreneurs that we need to do. And I don't know if a lot of entrepreneurs get how important soul care, self-care is in order to have a sustainable business.
I agree. I had a mentor years and years ago, and he said, and I was like working my hiney off and I was doing all these things. And I mean, I loved it. And I can probably be guilty of being a workaholic, but it fills me up. So that's kind of the challenge that I have. I'm like, but I don't feel like I'm a workaholic because I love it and it feels good and blah, blah, blah. But he had said to me, he's like, at some point, he's like, you've got to stop and take care of yourself, because he's like, if you do not have your health, okay, you have nothing, right? If you don't have the body that is going to take you there, you have nothing. And I think that goes back to, we've got to stop and take care of this body, our mind, our body, and our spirit and our soul, to say, okay, if this is in good working conditions, I can create anything. But if this is in ill health and I am in a bed and I am, have whatever, possible, ailment or cancers or whatever else that we could have in our bodies, like, we are not going to be able to, move that dial forward. And so I'm a big believer in, like what you said, is like, we have got to take care of ourselves. And that is not selfish. That is just, that is allowing ourselves to be taken care of so that we can serve more people.
Right. Well, and, it's like, I work with high achieving women, right? Just like me, just like you. And, and it's, I mean, across the board, it's funny. They're like, after that, like, first session or whatever it is they're like, okay, so what do you want? What kind of homework do you have for me? And I'm like,
it's so funny that I'm laughing because I'm like, this is so true.
Yeah, I'm like, you're not getting any. And they're like, wait, like, what? I mean, it's hilarious. I have this one client, and I said to her, and I said, you have to learn how to do nothing. You have to learn how to be, because your nervous system is so out of whack. And she goes, okay, how do I do that? And we just both looked at each other and started laughing, because I was like, do you realize what you just said? And it was hilarious. And then over, time, she's learned, because what happens is, like, if we're so burnt out and overextended, your nervous system is shot. And now she's in a space where she is really learning how to be. But what's happening is that her nervous system hasn't really caught up with her yet, so she's like, okay, I'm doing all these things, but my mind is still racing. And and so now it's like, it's almost like you make the decision and your physical body is doing it, but then your emotional and your spiritual body almost need to catch up to it so it can recalibrate.
Yeah. That's a beautiful way of saying that. So what are some of your, like, top one or two, besides the meditation and some of the tools that you've just shared, what are some of those other ways that you support your soul care?
Well, the meditation is a big one, and moving my body is another one. Also, just being out in nature, hugging a tree, laying on the grass and earthing and releasing all of that energy into it. And just, drinking a lot of water, because that is, something there, it flushes, your system also energetically. And I value my alone time like nobody's business, So I'm like, this is my time. And now it's a little skewed because now I've got kids actually going to school. So I'm like, okay, I might have to get up earlier now.
Well, and I think all of those are fantastic tips and tricks and strategies. And so, if you're listening to this and you're saying, gosh, but I can't, I don't have time. It's important to make the time. I set my alarm clock an hour earlier than the house, so that I can get my stuff done. And am not interrupted with, mom, can you do this? Hey, can you? And I'm like, no, like, I want to have my time to reset. So give yourself permission today to find somewhere, and you don't have to have an hour. You can just do 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Start small, start with 5 minutes, start with 3 minutes. I don't care. Start somewhere.
Well, it's creating that time, right? Because it's like, we all have 24 hours in the day, but it's like, it's a discipline to get up early. I do the same thing, but that discipline is, it's a discipline, which is self-love. And it's like, the more that you could create the time for yourself, then you could give the best of you, versus what's left of you, and who wants to do that?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I love how you said that. Giving the best of you for versus what's left of you. So you're absolutely right. So make a commitment to fill yourself up. And it's whatever resonates with you, whatever resonates with your whatever fills you up, that serves you, that's going to make you like the best version of yourself. So, take that time and look at that. And, whatever it is for you, just honor that time. Give yourself the permission for that time, because that makes all the difference on how you show up. And, and even out throughout the day. And some of you have seen in my book, like, I don't know what chapter, I think it's the last chapter. I actually debunk that there's no time issue. So if you go to the last chapter, I believe, and we debunk, the time issue, we have over 24 to 14 hours, depending on how you look at it, left. And so how are we filling those days? And that's plenty of time to take care of ourselves. Okay.
Right.
So, okay, Nadia, thank you so much. So where can people connect with you, follow you, and connect?
Well, the best way is probably on Instagram, and my that's NadiaAhrens.com, not.com. Well, that's my website, everybody. But I make it really easy for people. It's Nadia Ahrens. Like, that's, on Facebook, it's on Instagram, and and that's where you can find me. And then all the links, of course, are in my bio on Insta. So go find me.
Awesome. And we'll be putting all that information down in the show notes. This has been delightful. It's so great to hear and speak to another like-minded, light worker that's out there, because, I truly believe, again, we require people like yourself, myself, and others that are similar to us to rise above and really help support and contain, what people are going through. And the more of us that rise up, we allow other people to rise up as well. And to me, that is the most beautiful thing that we can be doing in this world.
100%.
So thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Teri.
I am so grateful that you joined me for this episode. If you've enjoyed this, then there's just one thing that I would like you to do. Click to subscribe and leave me a rating and review. As my way to thank you, let's connect for a free consultation. Just reach out to me at talkingwithteri, that's TERI.com, to book your time.